And I wanted you to talk about what are some ways, first of all, that you can become aware of what you are focusing on or what you should focus on. And then we'll talk about how we can manage that focus. So for instance, I have a personal purpose statement and a personal mission statement. And this becomes the filter of the things that I should focus on. And there's an exercise I'll make sure I post in there that's called the 8-word purpose statement or 8-word mission statement. For me, the purpose is the big picture. That's the vision. That's what moves you forward. My purpose statement is I guide people and organizations to their next best step in growth and sustainability. That's both my business and my personal. I guide people forward to the next best step. That's what I love. That's what I do. I do it for myself. I do it for my son, for my family. That's all important to me. And mission is basically, all right, so what do you do? It's defining what you do. And what I do is I can guide people to the next best step by designing and delivering workshops and resources and guidance so that help people see that. And that helps me understand what I should be focused on. For those of you who do projects or those of you who do consulting, you know the danger of scope creep. And the idea that, okay, I was assigned to do this one thing, this thing that I'm supposed to be focusing on. And then my tendency is, and I'll do this too, and I'll do this too, and I'll do this too. And suddenly this is a concept in physics, the dispersion of force, the famous, anybody have physics in high school? The basic physics thing, or even seen the experiment where they take a big cinder block, they put it on somebody's chest, and they put a sledgehammer and they shatter the block on the person's chest. Well, the reason why it doesn't hurt the person is because it disperses the force from that sledgehammer. Same reason why you can't really break a windshield by banging on it with your fist, because the force is spread out over your whole size of your fist, and it spreads out. So all that force you put into it is spread out over a large area. But if you take the little device that has a little spring-loaded pin, and you click it, and it shatters the window, all the force is focused on that one spot. So how do you know what to focus on? For me, one thing is the awareness piece is a mission and purpose statement. That's one thing. What else can help you be more aware? We'll spend a couple of minutes each time, but I'll put a note up in here. And what I want you to do is go ahead and put your notes. What can you do to become aware of what you should be focusing on? Because when you talk about a broad focus, it doesn't matter. You need to know what you should focus on so that you can let go of that when you need to.
John, it's Chris.
Yeah.
So for me, I've got to put my deadlines front and center, write them all down. That's the only way I can get things done. I've got to know where I'm headed and know what I'm up against and my constraints.
Now, do you have external deadlines, or do you have to give yourself internal deadlines?
If you're familiar with 4-H, I'm the development director, I'm the marketing director, I'm the programmer, I'm the volunteer coordinator. So it just depends.
You change departments by changing programs on your computer.
Pretty much, yes.
And I think that is not only an awareness piece, but that's also a management piece. And we can do both at the same time if we want. The idea of, if that's how you become aware you need to focus on, then writing them down becomes that way of managing it. And I think a part of the awareness piece is that knowing where you're at in the two other areas. If part of being awareness of your focus is being aware of your pace and energy. And now we'll kind of go over, what about like focus management? And one of the best tools, and feel free to be posting in either one right now, but if you've ever heard of the Eisenhower quadrants, the importance versus urgency, and that's a great way to know what you should be focusing on. Because oftentimes if we look at you take what your schedule is and you ask yourself, is this really urgent and important? Or is this really the ones that kill me are the ones where I've wasted time scrolling Facebook because that's not urgent or important, but it still finds a way into my life. And the things that are urgent and important, those absolutely scream out to be focused on. The ones that whisper are the things that are not urgent but very important. That's when you use that to create an awareness, and then you can manage your focus a lot better when you have that tool of those two quadrants are areas that I should be focusing on or could be focusing on. And that's a great tool to keep focus on what gets into your calendar, what gets into your pace, and manage how that pace is. What else are ways? I like the again, go awareness and management. What are ways that you can manage your focus? I had a boss who would manage his focus. When people would come in and into his office and want to talk, he would literally turn his laptop around so he wasn't looking at it. So removing distractions is a great way to manage your focus. So tell me more about changing your environment. Is that along with moving distractions, or is that a whole different thing?
No, it's similar to what you just mentioned, but it's actually something that I've seen you do that is like, sometimes you'll post that, hey, I'm in my, I don't know what you call it, outside office, and you're at the beach or something like that. And where you will, and you've told me when you really need to write or be creative or whatever, you kind of put yourself in an environment that's conducive to that. And so to me, that's kind of what I thought of.
Yeah, I have all these office annexes that include the beach and some other places. So yeah, the myth, there's another myth out there of multitasking. It looks like multitasking, but you're serial monotasking. And anytime you shift tasks, you're actually it takes time and energy away from your brain in order to shift tasks. So if you're shifting back and forth, you're ending up expending a lot of energy and not able to get the focus that you need to get it done. Here's something that's really helpful, both awareness and management. It's signal versus noise. When you need to focus on something, clearly define what you need to focus on. Because then once it's clearly defined, all the other information and data become noise, and you're able to focus on that thing that you're supposed to be paying attention to, and the rest of the distractions go away. Here's the thing is, all that noise, it can all still be there. When you shift focus, you're just seeing a different part of the noise that's out there and say, now this is important. So you don't have to get rid of, it's not you eliminate the noise. What you do is just not look at it, because there might be a time when that other data is going to become important to you. Rest. Yes, that gets into the energy piece. Another piece is having a prioritization strategies. If you know that the word priorities in the plural didn't come around until the early 1900s, with the advent of industrial psychology, all of a sudden there was the plural of priorities. Before that, it was always singular. You had one priority. And we oftentimes, because we focus on 5 or 6 different things. I had one client I was working with where at the end of every summer, they did a camp, and they would interview all the staff, they'd list all the improvements, and then they would just divide those up. No prioritization, whatever. It said, these are the things we need to do. So everybody on the year-round staff had like 30 things that was their top priority for the rest of the year. And it just was so frustrating because they didn't know what to focus on. So there's some fun ways that you can convergently think. One is, have you ever done, you've been to the optometrist and they say A or B, A or B, B. Okay. Then they cut up C or B. And you can do that with whatever's on your schedule and say, let me just take a couple minutes and figure out what I need to focus on. And the optometrist test is a good one. I'll share another one with you just because I can. And I'll switch my camera. Let's see here. There we go. And can you guys see my desk here that's my desk. So Rob, you'll recognize this one. This is one of my favorites. I do it individually and with clients. It's called the Platonic Triangle. Play-Doh, not Play-Doh, even though I've got a 9-year-old who loves Play-Doh. So what you do is if you've got like 5 or 6 things that you're trying to figure out, you draw a triangle and you make, let's say it's 5, A, B, C, D, E. Now, if you put another line up here, you'll notice there's not enough room for all of them to move up. One needs to stay back. Not that it's not important because it made your list, but there's only room for 4. And let's say we're getting rid of C. So A, B, D, E. Put C out over here. Same problem, only room for 3. Let's say E goes away. So E comes over here. A, B, D. Only room for 2. Same thing. B goes away. So I've got A and D. Now, let's say D goes to the top of the list. A, D. Now you've gone through a process and you've considered all those different things, but you haven't gotten rid of any of them. You now have what you're going to focus on in D, and then you have a list of what comes next. Now, here's another piece, and Rob, I don't think I've shown you this one before, but this is, you can do a test about, this is your ideal priorities. This is your ideal pyramid. Now take a look at all the resources you have: money, time, and like hours, that's time. But you look at all the resources you have, your talents, and you make a list of where am I spending that time? This is where you do an assessment of your calendar. Where am I spending the time? Do an assessment of your, whatever gets the most time, guess what? That's the top of your real triangle. Whatever gets the most money, that's the top of your real triangle. Wherever most of your talents go, that's the top of your real triangle. And now what you do, you now know that you want to focus on the top of your triangle, and you set your pace and energy towards moving whatever this is to the top of your real triangle. I was doing this with a guy who ran a camp. Where's my 4-H'er? And they had a camp, and they said, you know what? Our campers and our counselors are our top priority. We looked at their budget. All their money went to the horses. We went to the amount of staff. Most of the staffing went to the horses. They looked at where they sent most of their training. All went to the wranglers. And what they figured out is, man, our real triangle means that we love our horses. And they had to figure out how to still have that quality program and yet still tend to the campers and counselors. So that's been a really helpful tool for me. Any questions about looking at focus, awareness, and focus management? And before we move on. Okay. And feel free, you guys, seriously, unmute yourself and stop me if I'm not making any sense, or if it spurs, more importantly, if it spurs an idea that takes it forward, share it. I mean, there's 6 people in here, so it's not like have a lot of management problems. With that, let's move over to talking about pace.